Manscaped.com.
Listen.
20% discount when you use the code WINNERS.
Yes.
Talk to them, Doug.
Bruv, the Manscaped came through with a care package that, listen, they've leveled it up. Man had body wash, all of this conditioner, hair wash,
All
this,
available,
bruv, shavers.
Everything.
They've fully just gone mad. It ain't just the bushwhacker. It ain't just all of that kind of stuff
The
now.
Manscaped 4.0, the boxer shorts. It's all
Bruv,
there. You need
it's
to go
all
on
there.
the
Lip
bottom
balm,
of page.
the lip balm serious.
The
All of that
peach oil, the lip balm
deodorant.
and that.
Deodorant's proper.
Body spray, all of it.
Yeah. Listen, use your code WINNERS. Make sure you get
discount.
that.
You, Lex, you've been using your Manscaped 4.0.
Proper still. You know what I like about it? you know what I like about it?
What do you like about it, Lex?
The aftershave, man.
Yeah.
You know they got that special balls aftershave.
I haven't used it.
I don't think that one's for the balls though, fam.
Oh shit, where's it for, man?
Yeah, no, that one's for. that one. Yeah, that one. I've used it. I've been. Yes, for your face. That's normal aftershave.
Manscaped.com. Use the code WINNERS. 20% discount.
Covered.
Winners talking.
For those that have seen a few episodes come out, there's been some short ones coming out, little 20-minute joints. We just needed some time to recuperate, replenish, feel reinvigorated, and be ready for
recharge the guys
2023,
again.
recharge the batteries. So the real work starts from now. It's the hustler, Big PS, co-host Big Dougie Doug.
There.
Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We're in again.
Isn't it?
It's a special episode today. It's a serious episode and a special one. Shout out to Bobby Kasanga, because when you guys reached out, he contacted me immediately, and some people might not do that. And as soon as I got the shout, I immediately got back to him and said, yeah, let's get it done. So we've got Chris Kabas' family here today.
Blessings.
I'll let you introduce yourselves individually and let the people then know who you are. So go ahead, my brother.
Of course. Firstly, thanks for having us. We definitely appreciate the support.
No problem.
My name's Jefferson. I'm the official representative of the Kaba family, and I'm also leading the Justice for Chris Kaba campaign.
Yes.
I'm Chris's cousin.
Yes, Jefferson.
My name is Shida. Go by Shida Queen. I am Jefferson's cousin, also Chris Kaba's cousin as well.
Yeah, my name is Temi, and I'm a supporter of Chris's family, working with the campaign, and I'm a racial justice campaigner.
Okay, well, firstly, it's great to have you all here. Jefferson, big up on everything I've seen you doing. I've been watching from the beginning intently, because September the 5th,
Yeah, the 5th.
it's a tragedy to the community, Doug. Now, when I say it's a tragedy, right, because there's certain things that, no matter how you look at it, where you're from, where it comes down to, some things are going to be the same in this situation. Whether you look at a person a certain way, whether you get on with this person, don't get on with this person, there's one thing that's in common when a young black boy dies. Mum's crying, dad's crying, suffering amongst the family, broken families that, I hate to say it, as someone that's been in it, I've been in it, I've experienced it. So families that might never be the same again in a certain kind of way, because there's a piece missing. So we're going to speak on things today because it was a tragedy and it is a tragedy. Jefferson, could you just, from that day, on that day, September the 5th, could you just tell us the chain of events that led to what you hear, and as far as you know, like how news came to you first?
For me, I was at work. So I used to be a teacher. So I was getting ready for the year ahead. So we had 2 inset days, and it was the Tuesday. And someone on Instagram sent me a message, and it showed a post saying that someone's been shot by police. And he sent a message saying Chris with lots of question marks. And obviously that just straight away, that's kind of like red flag. So obviously I started calling around, started calling people. And no one really got back to me, but I called a mutual friend of mine and Chris, and he broke it to us. But not just for me, but for the family as well. It took like 11 hours to find out. It took such a long time to find out. The police didn't tell us straight away.
I wanted to ask you that because I'd read that. It took 11 hours for the news to reach your family from the police. Has there been an explanation from the police why it took so long?
Well, the family met with the commissioner in one of our meetings, and he said it was something to do with the addresses, and it didn't sound like a plausible explanation or reasonable excuse or like reason as to why they took so long. But that was their reason, something to do with
11 hours.
Addresses, yeah.
So what time was the shooting officially? What time did it?
So he got shot at 7 minutes past 10, so 10 o'clock roughly, like around 10.
10 p.m.
Yeah.
And news reached you, so what?
Like 11
11 in the
o'clock,
morning?
11 in the morning, but he died around midnight. So we found out much later.
And there is no justification for it, but have they tried to give any kind of explanation of why it took that period of time for the information to reach you?
Just a mix-up in addresses. He didn't really elaborate and tell us what mix-up. He just said there's a mix-up in addresses. We didn't really want to push much further because it was like...
I'm going to say this. You can either just say yes or no, but do you feel that time was spent while they were trying to get their ducks in a row and trying to organise what they were going to come to your parents with, as it's one of their officers that shot him? If you don't want to answer, maybe one of you can answer. You can give me your opinion. What do you think?
I can tell you what has happened in previous
Yeah,
cases.
please do. Educate me.
Yeah, well, what we see is that when there is a killing that the police are the ones responsible for, we see a completely different chain of events than what would happen if you or I were involved in a killing. So those hours spent afterwards, often police can discuss with one another. They can discuss what they want to say, how they're going to refer to it, and this has happened in previous cases, called collusion. It comes up in the inquests and the different trials. We see this happens frequently, and it does pose a serious question. Why is the treatment so different? They've had so many opportunities to think through how they're going to explain those events. They're not questioned officially. It took time to even launch it as a criminal investigation. At that time, when they go home that night, it's not a criminal investigation. They don't have to give a statement. They don't have to even write anything substantial. It doesn't have to be thorough. It's something that's a real issue.
Yeah. I remember when it first reached me, I think I did a little video and I said like, so what's gonna happen? Is whoever's done this, are they gonna be investigated to the full extent of the law like one of us would be if we was to be in that kind of position? How long did it take for them to actually say we're going to investigate the officer? They suspended the officer, right?
So they suspended him.
After how long though?
So first they opened the homicide investigation and then they suspended him because it's not actually the IOPC that suspended him, it's the London Met, it's his actual employers. So the police suspended him, but the IOPC launched the investigation first, like a week after the shooting. I'm
sorry, before we get back into this, I've got to ask this, it's so important to me. How's Chris's parents, how's mum coping, dad coping? Because these things can't get overlooked. Sheila, do you want to tell me about how your auntie...
They're trying. They're trying. They're holding on to their faith. They know that obviously Chris has got 2 other siblings, a baby here now, you know, and his fiance, you know, wife to be. So, and even for their own sake, just to, you know, to see justice, they've got that fire in them to try, but there are days, you know, this is ongoing. There are days it's hard. It's hard for them. It's really hard, but they're trying. They're really trying.
Prayers and thoughts to you and your family. So it's realer than I could put into words. I understand the devastation that things like this causes. Like I think if some people could get a look in and understand the devastation of a mother when they lose their child and such, it will give people a different outlook on a lot of things, you know.
It's deep, especially when you are a parent yourself as well. And you know, not saying that people can't be affected if they're not parents, but you know, when you've pushed out a child as a mother and you're looking at your child and just thinking something, you know, life being taken away from them, especially in that brutal way, it affects you. You feel like you took that bullet with them. It affects you so deep, like the nightmares, you're going over it, you're thinking, if only I was there, you know, to save, if only I could put myself in their place. As a mother, you just think about all this stuff. It's just, yeah, I can't even imagine some of the thoughts that my auntie goes through.
Jefferson, you found yourself in a position with a lot on your shoulders, brother. How did you choose to take the position of the spokesperson, or did the position choose you? How did that come to pass?
I don't know. I was trying to balance both. Like, so I was working and campaigning, and then I said, okay, I asked work for some time off because I just couldn't do both. It was quite, it was quite demanding. And I guess a week afterwards, I thought, obviously, I'm gonna have to make a decision. Either I'm gonna campaign and commit fully, or I'm gonna go back to work. And I just thought that if I did go back to work, I wouldn't like enjoy my time. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Like, I don't think it will be the same, like, because my mind will constantly be on the case and on the investigation and supporting the family. So it was like between family and like my job. So
All right. As far as you know now, because we saw what we saw in the news and the headlines and all of this. As far as you know, what was the chain of events? If you can, what you can say, what was the chain of events that led up to the police shooting your cousin while he was unarmed in his vehicle?
So on the Monday, Chris obviously going about his business, and then roughly around, I think it was like 9:30, like he leaves his mum's house, drives to New Park Road. Like, obviously police follow him without lights or sirens, which is something we didn't know initially because they said that obviously it was a police chase. So that was obviously quite big as well.
So let's be clear, they're following him. There's nothing to identify. It's the police following him.
Yeah.
He's just being followed.
So he's just seeing a car.
He's just a car following
He's just
him.
watching a car
And
following him wherever he's
listen,
going.
I don't even think he knew he was being followed.
Yeah,
Oh, you don't think he knew he was being
I
followed?
know he didn't know.
So there wasn't a chase.
No, of course not. There was no chase. Like, we can say that explicitly.
I want it to be said clear because it was worded initially as there was a chase, or that's what went out there. I don't know who said it, but
And I said there was helicopters involved and all that stuff. So.
no helicopters, no chase, nothing of the sort.
There was a helicopter involved.
There was a helicopter.
But it wasn't a pursuit. No.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like chasing him or anything.
The helicopter was just just monitoring the movement of the car. Basically,
Yeah,
that's what you're saying. All right, continue, bro. Go on.
Where was I up to, sorry?
You said
9:30.
Okay, so 9:30, he leaves his mum's house, so he's driving to New Park Road, followed for 15 minutes without lights and sirens. Obviously, he takes the left to Kirkstall Gardens. What police are saying, or what the IRPC are saying, is that contact was made between Chris's vehicle and the police vehicle, and that led to him losing his life.
Hold on. When you say contact was made, go on.
And that's like, even in the Sky documentary, I think Shingi kind of spoke about this word because it's really vague. What does contact mean? Like, who contacted who? Did the police contact Chris?
That's what I'm trying.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to get. I don't get no understanding. So I'm asking you.
After the contact, so then an officer has. There's another car. There's an unmarked car, but the way they were coordinating, there was a marked police car on that road that was waiting, and they were gonna try come together. They were discussing it to intercept him. And so at that point, with the contact being made, it's not clear exactly what that contact was, but an officer, only known now as NX121, got out of the marked police vehicle, and he is the one that shot Chris.
So the marked police vehicle, not the Andes, it was the marked police was the one that engaged with it.
How many police were present? You know,
I don't think we're allowed to really go into.
Can't go into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a lot of police officers. Yeah.
So, have you seen people are saying the body cam footage? Have you guys been able to see? Have you been given access?
We've seen it. Yeah.
Can you say what you saw on the body cam footage?
No, not really. But what we can say is that we've seen it and we're fighting harder than ever before. So
you've seen it and you're fighting it harder than ever before. I understand. Let everyone read between the lines of that what's being said there, and so. And be clear as well, Chris had no weapon on him. Let's be clear, an unarmed man was shot. If any of us shoot a man full stop, you know what it's going to be for us, an unarmed man. And this is something as well I think people don't really give enough credence to as well. Just because police officers put on uniforms, they're still human. You don't know what prejudices, what personal issues, who's had a bad day, who's on edge, who's got something to prove. So I hope that the full flipping force of investigation is going to be done? How confident are you in what's going on? Because I heard 6 to 9 months of investigation. I don't know whether to look at that as they're being thorough or they're buying time. What's your perspective as someone that's talk to me?
If that investigation, and me and Jeff, we've spoken about this a lot. For them to come and say 6 to 9 months is unrealistic. It's unlikely. I've never heard of an investigation being carried out so swiftly. That would be swift, and for people, that would be quick.
Okay, talk to me.
Yeah, as in a lot of other cases, it takes many years. This process takes many years, and so I think there was a lot of pressure put on them right from the start with the first even protest that was held just on that first Saturday on the 10th, where there was demands made and there were thousands of people there and the demands were clear. There should be a criminal investigation. At that point, they had only just seen that level of pressure. And so there was also a demand for them to commit to a timeline, and they actually did. They came out and said the 6 to 9 months. So we'll see if they are able to stick to it soon. The deadline would be coming in June if they actually...
Jeff, do you feel that the pressure is why certain things are being done by the police? Do you think it would be done because listen, thankfully your cousin is clearly loved, and it's created a massive outcry. You understand the whole story? Massive outcry immediately. We're going to get to the protests and all of that. We're not going to miss all of that because it's so important and stuff, that we make use of our voices. People were speaking out and so on and so forth. Because you've been able to create this to force their hand slightly of the investigation, yeah, and put them in a position where they're gonna have to answer. They're gonna have to. They've got to answer. You've actually, between all of you, you've created something where there's answers to be had, and I've noticed you're being relentless with it. You're definitely being relentless with it. How far have you managed to reach? Who has reached that from the other side of the fence, so to speak? Police, government, and so on. Who's responded or said something to let you know to give you a feeling that things could possibly be going in the right direction, if anyone?
I'd say there's been a lot of support from, not a lot of support, there have been some politicians who's been helping. So Belle's been supporting.
Who's Belle?
And Belle. So she's the MP for Streatham, Belle Ribeiro.
Yeah. So Belle was there on the day that it happened, because it was in her constituency in Streatham. So she's the MP, local MP, and she's been very instrumental in helping.
I think one thing that kind of like makes me feel hopeful, because I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm hopeful because there's things that I've seen that obviously help me be a bit more hopeful. But also, if I'm looking at precedent, like most of the cases, as Temi said, they take way too long. But one thing that happened in this case, there was a lot of media, a lot of articles about Chris, about the case, and it started to get a bit too much. There was like leakages, and there was like people, like I think some journalists were gonna leak other stuff. And the IOPC were talking to the media, told them not to leak it, stop it, you're gonna harm the case. And the media pretty much didn't listen. So, the CPS went to them, can you please stop? You're going to harm the case. They didn't listen. They were still leaking stuff. So they had to get the Attorney General. I didn't even know we had the Attorney General, but they got the Attorney General to speak out and issue a statement, pretty much a ban on anyone speaking on this case. That's the first time it's ever happened, ever. Like, he doesn't speak on things like this. So, yeah, there's things that's made me feel hopeful, but at the same time, I don't want to be idealistic. But I don't see it going any other way. They just have to answer questions. Yeah,
someone has to be brought to justice at the end of it, innit? That's it. They're being held accountable.
I know. Men was shot. I can hear all this. Listen, whether or not suspected, whether or not that's not relevant to this. To the law, you can't shoot. You can't shoot a man that's unarmed. Yeah, and he's not a threat to you. All right, Wob, I'm gonna ask you this. You've seen the body cam. I just want to ask you this because people put this out there and I don't know where it was coming from, whether it's truthful. He was using his car as a weapon, which I think is just bullshit anyway. But what can you say on that? Because you obviously heard this said. What can you say on that?
I think we're just going to have to wait for the investigation to finish, but the truth always comes out.
Yeah.
I'm not. Let them know.
And even with some of the responses, it just lets you know that, like you're saying, with the time frame of how they're saying that it could be done within such a small time frame, letting them know that their back is against the wall, because you've all seen the body cam, you know what's happened. We've seen so much different footages of so many other like things where police have killed like innocent black people and stuff, and you can see like that we know what they're like in it, we know what's going on. So it's like with the pressure and everything being ramped up on them, it's pushing them into a corner now. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, just to add to what Timmy said about it being like really, really swift. I think based on previous cases, yeah, that's very swift. But the team and the family and the lawyers, where that's not swift at all. That's way too long. 6 to 9 months is like, it's ridiculous. They don't need that long.
Because if it was one of the man them, if it was one of the man them, trust me, we're getting nicked and held on remand.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we're getting held on remand real quick.
Exactly.
You get me? Fast.
Early, but you know what it is? I understand what you're saying as well, because the family can't find peace. That's what it is, Doug. See, with these things, while they're up in the air, there's until things are wrapped up, it will never be better. You understand? But they can't find the peace that they want. While this is still constant. What's the latest? This one's asking, auntie's asking, cousins ringing, phones going off, newspaper. You see what I'm trying to say?
Every morning.
And
it's like we
it
see
don't
it when
stop.
it's in the papers, or you see it
But
when
they're
it's on
living
social,
in it.
But you're living.
They're living in it.
Like even you can see like now you're still hurting. It's not. It don't ever end in it.
no,
Do you get what I'm
no,
saying?
stop.
Like it's
I
constant.
don't think the peace comes when it's wrapped up, because I want everyone that's watching to understand that there's only one officer who's ever been successfully prosecuted for killing, and it wasn't for murder, it was for manslaughter. That's one officer out of the more than 1,800 people
Ever?
that have been, since
What, in the UK?
1990
Never happened.
in England and Wales, which is
We're looking to
We have to change that.
this case. It was actually Dalian Atkinson, the footballer.
the footballer. Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember.
That was in 2016, and the officer
I say,
involved,
educate me. Yeah.
he was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment for manslaughter. But that, as I said, it's not the first time there's been an unlawful killing verdict. So when we have an inquest, they decide, they do the investigation, they look at all the facts, and then they decide, is it going to be a lawful killing? That means there'll be no criminal proceedings. Is it going to be unlawful? Then there will be a criminal proceeding. And there's been more than 10 unlawful killing verdicts.
And are these all on black people? Like,
Not all
or
of
is
them
it
are on
over-
black
is it like-
people.
Is that statistic over just in general of the matter?
That's in general, but but black people are disproportionately represented within that.
Yeah.
And you can look at other unlawful killing, maybe of Christopher Alder. There's been other people, but even Ezell Rodney, there it went further. Ezell Rodney was shot 6 times in Edgware in 2005 or 6, and that was also an unlawful killing. There was Anthony Long, the police officer. He stood trial 2015, but the jury acquitted him. So you can see, even when it goes all the way, it's reliant on a jury of whose peers, I don't know. A jury is going to be formed, and they're going to conclude whether that person is guilty or not. And Anthony Long walked free after shooting Ezell Rodney 6 times, 4 times in the head.
Can I ask, the investigators in this, is it independent or is it police investigating police?
We was just talking about that.
No, but it's a real question. I've got because is it police investigating police?
So it's for I think 70%. The figures are quite. Some people say 40%, some people say 70%. But the IPC is made up of 40 to 70% former police officers. So they're investigating their former colleagues, their former bosses, their former friends, and obviously that's not independent. I think that's common sense.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask, did the police assume that Chris had a gun? Was there an assumption that he had a gun?
Assumption shouldn't come into it when it comes. But go on. I hear the question though.
I can't definitively say yes because there's an investigation going on, but they were following him because the car was linked to firearms. So I think they're obviously the car.
This happened to me before. This happened to me
You
before.
have to what happened that morning? There was a briefing about this car, but Chris's name wasn't mentioned.
Yeah.
Chris's
But this how I got arrested and ended up going in prison
I
because
wanted to know because I didn't know that. I obviously I read the news. I do understand what's going on. So I just wanted to know: was it the car or was it him himself?
So it's the car.
Thank you for clarifying.
The car.
Yeah, that's
Because people are gonna ask that question.
Yeah, because it's happened. Like,
It
it happened
happens a
to
lot.
me. Like I got a hard stop. This is what ended up me getting arrested to go to prison. Like I got a hard stop because my car was flagged for firearms. So it's not necessarily that they were thinking I had it, but because the marker is on the actual vehicle and it stays on the vehicle, even if you sell the vehicle, the next owner will have that marker, but it will know that they will just know
them flags don't go.
they don't go away.
And then on the other side of it,
Yeah.
I can say, just if we're just talking candidly, on the other side of it as well, I've had the stop where they think you've got it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this, like, they didn't approach the car. It's when I drove to the top of the road, the whole road was shut.
Yeah.
Left, right. And when they've got them big machine guns, I'm telling, no, listen,
Trust me,
as easy as it is, like I say, if someone's feeling nervous, if someone's feeling anxious, if I make one false move, I'm not here doing this now. Yes, you understand what I'm saying to you? It's these are human beings. Yeah, you see what I'm trying to say?
In the previous episodes, it's like you hear it like man going and when I thought they like shot my brethren, and when they lifted man up, they shot out the tires and mashed out the. But it's just like that. It's like what P said. It just takes one trigger happy person or someone just having a bad day. Bro. And it's sad that in this day that when this is
someone being unstable, there's all kinds of scenarios. Because they're human, you know. Didn't policemen just get arrested the other day for rape?
What would it take for man just to jump out the car and the first thing he thought is to do that? When,
no.
You know what I mean? When you're the police officer, you're meant to protect and you have all the power because in case, let's say he did have it, like, or did have something, like, there's enough of you to be able to control the situation to arrest man. Do you get what I'm saying? And if he does move or do a madness, then
that's meant to be the last resort.
That's
meant to be the literal last.
The last resort.
But you were gonna say something. I saw like
I was just gonna say a lot. When it happened, I've seen a lot of commentary, mainly from like racist people, but they were saying that, you know, why didn't he stop? You know, why did he do this? Why do that? And I feel like with police, they train pretty much like all the time, every day to deal with these type of situations. But I've never been trained to deal with police officers pointing, you know, the biggest machine guns in my face, you know, like, and I think it's so easy behind the keyboard to be like, oh yeah, you know, you should have done this. But when you're in that situation yourself, especially when you're not expecting it, because I think if it's a police chase, it's very different. I know they're onto me. Whereas if I'm just driving and then last minute I realize does that make sense? That's a completely different scenario, right?
It makes sense because you're not necessarily gonna know that you need to. When it was me, I remember immediately my thing was straight away up. Clear, but it's not guaranteed that you're gonna. You're in the moment, bro, and you don't know how you're gonna move. It just is what it is.
I slammed on my brakes and ducked. Did you get real talk? Because
you just
don't
don't
motorway,
know.
and
But
I look to my left and it's there. You just.
But imagine you ducking, they're thinking you're going to get.
That's what I'm
something.
saying.
But
So
it's
you've
the
come back
ducking.
up.
But the ducking is because I didn't even know it was feds. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like it's just just a Vectra pulled up beside man, isn't it? Do you get me? You don't even know where it is.
But I guarantee if something happened, people would be like, why is he ducking?
Of course.
They won't even know inside his face.
But listen, you're gonna get the most of that. People always do that. Like everyone's gonna have an opinion on something. They don't know the facts. People haven't, and we live in a time where everyone gets to voice their opinion one way or the other. But go on, you're gonna say something.
When it's black people think the worst of us before they think the better of us. So it's like you said, it's like man will say, well, if he ain't doing nothing wrong, why don't he pull over and all of this? But you don't. It's not like that. Like they will only have that opinion on it because it's a black person, innit? Do you get what I'm saying? If it was a white,
that brings a perfect segue to what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
No. See, with us as people, and me personally, everyone, like growing up, especially when you're younger and you're them kind of ages as well, yeah. There's gonna be Chris that walks out the house and has to deal with whatever he's got going in life, and shit happens and however it goes on. And then there's going to be Chris that you lot all know, that little cousins love, aunties, uncles. Tell us a bit about Chris. Tell us about Chris as a person and as a man. Let's get to an understanding of what he was like as an individual, because you can get dehumanized in these kind of things and you just become like whatever. Go on. So Shida, you can go ahead.
The life of the party.
Literally about to say that. That was the first thing on my mind, the life of the party.
Life of the party. Love busting jokes, dancing, you know, he's Congolese as well, so, you know, dancing. You know, there's a lot of footages that the Mandem sent to us when he's out. He loved his friends, he's always with the Mandem. So they had a lot of beautiful, precious memories with him. So they'll be sending us all the videos and stuff. Chris is just being Chris, like dancing, busting jokes, being that life of the party. At home, you know, he's close with mum, you know, always making mum happy, always, you know, just talking to her, busting jokes, making sure that she's all right. She's got a smile on her face even when she's down. Very protective of who he loves. You know, just that, how can I say, just a ball of energy. Had a lot of energy. I remember when I was saying in the family conference that we had a couple months back, you know, I remember when I was younger, it was one of my little brother's birthdays. I think he turned like 9 or 8, one of those ages. And we had like a little mini rave. for them. Like all of them just bouncing up and down, Jefferson, all of them, they were literally just going crazy. And then Chris was supposed to get in the picture. I was taking a group picture of all of them, and I just heard an auntie screaming outside. They're like, ah, Chris, they're talking in our language. And we went outside, he was like knocked out on the floor. Like he had so much sweets and everything, he knocked into a parked car, and then he was laid out flat, and we all thought he, got run over and all that stuff. Like, so he was just doing just wild stuff. Like, they just always had a ball of energy from young. So that's like, these are memories that I like to take, and this is the Chris that we know. You know,
that's what I want. That's why I asked you, because I want people. You can only people know. Like, I know myself personally. When I was them ages, me with my family is different to me when I go outside. You understand what I'm saying to you? Because I'm facing, when we face our own struggles and adversities when we step out the front door. But when that family unit, when we feel safe and we're loved and everything's good, it's a whole different picture. So you might not get to know that these stories, that these touching stories. You understand? Jefferson, what about yourself? Tell us about a memory or memories or how you saw your cousin and what you know of your cousin.
I think Chris, once again, was the life of the party, but I think he was very original. Like original, like I can't really explain it. I feel like we all grow up and life happens to us and things change, but I feel like he never really lost sight of who he was. He was still the same Chris. He'll still speak to you in Lingala, he'll still do silly dances, he'll still do like all the funny stuff that you'll do when he was younger, you know. I say probably my favourite memory is like there was a time where I hadn't seen him in a while, and I saw him at a party. And he just got me and literally like just picked me up, like it was huge. He was like proper strong, literally just picked me up and like squeezed me. Like I'm like, but that was like my last memory of him, and that's why it was so special, because it was like, oh, like that hug was just it actually meant a lot. Like, it meant a lot.
That's a nice memory to have. And I'd say to you that I'm not trying to big bro man on that, but just saying, as someone that's experienced this kind of thing firsthand, I'd say try and take comfort in the fact that you know how much he loved you, and vice versa. You understand what I'm saying? Because in our lifetime, we got, if that's a comfort within itself. Like, he knew you like loved him like crazy, and vice versa. It doesn't ease the pain completely, but it's something to look to. You understand? It's something to look to in all of this. Right, back to this now. The protests. I don't need to say how did they come about, but putting it together and the organisation. I know, Sheila, you had a part to play. Jefferson, tell us how that came together, really, how the protest was organised in such a swift fashion as well, and go from there.
So we kind of had a team. We had a campaign team. There's like 8, 9 of us, I think 8. And obviously we knew we had to do something ASAP because we had demands. We needed them suspended. We needed the homicide investigation. But obviously at the same time, like the Queen was feeling unwell. We kind of knew she was going to pass.
I wanted to ask you
exactly. So
do you feel it got overshadowed to a degree, or gave? No, let me say that overshadowed. Let me say how I feel it happened. Let me say it. Do you feel like they used right? The Queen's passed away. No, the Queen's passed away. You know, God bless the Queen. Long live the Queen. We live in England. You know where it is where it is. You know, with the monarch and that. But do you feel it was kind of used to just kind of turn the agenda a little bit, like, we've lost the Queen, and kind of let's push this to the back a little piece while we
do what they did? You saw the coverage of we were out there, thousands of us marching.
They said it was
They said we was a procession to go and see the Queen.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. It's funny, but then it's not funny because you're co-opting our grief and our mourning and trying to say we're mourning for that's erasure. And to be there, we were there on the day. We had just finished this whole day, 4:30, 5 o'clock. People are showing me, you see, they're actually saying we was here for the Queen.
Yeah.
But
the beautiful thing that we do have now is the fact that it was corrected so quickly. And I think because back in the day, maybe 10, 15 years ago, that would have happened and it would have just been left out there with no correction.
Yeah.
You get with no...
Yeah,
but with the help of social media, it allowed it that. As soon as they had to come back and apologise and be like, no, actually, then it's better they have not said nothing. Because they also put the attention back on Chris. Do you get what I'm saying? We've got
access to use voices now to kind of correct some things. So, all right, carry on the process.
I was just going to say it's a bit contextual as well, because when you think about it, Queen Elizabeth, how was she? Like 97. So she reigned for so long, and she's probably like the most prominent person in Britain, right? Like she's the monarch. and Chris died the same week as her, but we were still able to push forward, have that protest, we obviously reached so many people. So I think it was always going to be difficult, like with the Queen passing, because obviously that's quite a huge thing for this country. But I think in spite of that, we done really, really, really well getting it out there and pushing it and not allowing that to kind of like stop our drive.
No, you did excellently. I'm just going to go back a little moment. Do you think, you said that the car was flagged for an alleged shooting incident, carnival or something along those lines. So that's the report. You said there was a report in the morning. So it's reasonable to think that the officer or one of the officers in question could be on some kind of, panicked high, kind of adrenaline fuel, kind of, as he's holding the gun. It's possible to think, right? I'm not telling you to say it, but I'm saying from my opinion, it's possible to think that it's more than plausible to think that if you've had this meeting in the morning, and like I say, it's human, because it's sorry to go back, but it's just run through my mind now as I'm just saying it. Like I'm listening to it. Remember, I'm just taking it in as you're telling me.
Processing.
Yeah, I'm processing and hearing like it's human. You see what I'm saying? Someone could, it could be any number of ways. Like I say, for all I know, the man holding the gun could be a man that just could be a psycho that just wanted to kill a guy. I don't know. I don't know.
Even with what you said then, I don't know if you can talk on it, but because they said his car was involved in something a week before. So has anything materialised from that? Because then, you know what I mean? Because for you to say that his car was involved in a shooting and for you to hard stop a man and kill a man, boy, that car better be connected to something, because you get what I mean? Because then this is all for nothing then.
Of course, yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like, has anything materialised in that sense from that?
Can't say to you.
No, not necessarily. With the other case, obviously, that's another investigation that they're doing. So once again, they're really secretive and not really letting much slip in regards to the details of that. It's not just him in that. There's a few other people as well involved. That's obviously made it quite complicated. But no, nothing's really materialised. No.
But I have a bigger question. I'm curious. What, in terms of that, it all being for nothing, I mean, we have laws in the country. We have firearm law. If you have possession of a firearm, you could go to prison for a couple of years. Cool. Like there is a legal framework to deal with it. But being executed is not part of it. They can't say it.
You say it,
No, but I'm not part of the family, the legal team, the lawyers. They have to deal with the legal case in a particular way. But when we look at the history and we see the way people man got shot in the head. In the head. So with that in mind, it's like, why for us? I thought there wasn't a death penalty in this country. The death penalty, we used to have it, but it got abolished. It got abolished.
But they're executed, man. That's what you're basically trying to.
So I'm thinking of, for example, like even Mark Duggan, there's a gun that's materialized. Not necessarily that he was holding the gun, because the jury found that he was unarmed when he was shot, so he wasn't holding the gun. There was no shootout. But aside from all of that, even in this case where there was a gun, does that mean that it's not all for nothing?
Definitely not. And this is the point I said for my first video. You can't shoot. Listen, there's no. This is England where we live by these laws supposedly. You can't just shoot a man. You understand? There is no execution law. There is no death. We're just gonna. He had no gun. He had no gun. He had no weapon. Go on.
I was just going to point out, if you look at the nature of the shooting, I think there's only 2 people. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's 2 people that's been shot in the head in this country.
I was gonna.
Azelle Rodney and Chris. I think it was only 2. And normally, like if you're shooting in the head, that's like for suicide bombers, right? Like you're shooting them so they can die instantly. Because they can't flip a switch that like straight away you want to take them out, right? So the question is like, at what point was the level of threat the same as the level of force used? I think, and that's the question. That's what they're investigating. Because normally, if you're going to use force, the perceived threat has to be of the same, the same energy, same level.
The perceived, and this is where, when it comes to those legal cases, like in Mark Duggan's case, the officer V53 says, I had an honestly held belief that he had a gun. So even though he doesn't have a gun, even though the jury found he was unarmed, that one officer, no other officer thought he was, but this one officer said he honestly believed that he did have a gun, that he saw a gun. And you see, when it comes to black people now, and what you were talking about in the perception, the fear, the scene of threat, of risk, you can see a gun that doesn't exist.
Thank you. That's what I say. A man could be too amped up from the briefing. From the briefing. That's what I was trying to get to before. A man could be too amped up from the briefing. like worry. Oh my God, I've got. You see what I'm trying to say?
But they're
And
going
create
out
guns that
every
aren't
day.
made, right?
Thousands, like each year, there are thousands of these kind of operations, where firearms are involved, where these officers are going out suspecting there's guns, looking for guns, getting these briefings. They're not. This isn't the first briefing they would have had. You get it? So this is every day they come in. That's their supposedly that's their job. They're supposed to be. So that's normal
They
for
should
them.
be so highly to be in a position where they're holding guns. I would like to think they're going through stringent testing, mental testing, psych
Also,
evaluation, flipping training in the worst of scenarios, all sorts, breathalyzing every fucking day. You understand?
But it's even
testing, drug testing, all of the above, because you're holding people's lives in your hands at the end of a gun.
And you know what else as well? It's like it made me think of like something that happened before. Like when I was with my mum and we was driving and she got hit by a lorry and I jumped out the lorry, and I ran around the other side and I bust the door and I climbed up on the lorry and then an unmarked car just drove up, and it was like Mr. James, like that, They knew me in it. Do you get what I'm saying? And sometimes like you don't even know, like this Fed, like kind of know my man differently. Do you get what I'm saying? Like could have known him from a past, like whatever, like just because even when we asked, my mum asked him, like, how do you know him? And he said, oh well, his name's on the board with all his boys. Do you get what I mean? So like there's familiarity. All of a sudden, through familiarity, they feel like they know me to be able to call me by my name. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's just mad. There's so many different angles that
the point is you just
don't
know until you know. So let's hope everything's gonna be deeply investigated to the utmost, and we have to keep pushing and keep talking it, because there's a thing where there's uproar. When there's death as war, just in any like everyone comes together, and you push a certain direction, and and everyone means what they're saying, but then it starts to fade slightly. We can't let that happen. You see what I'm saying? Because it does happen, unfortunately. It's not, people don't mean anything by it, It's like you could have the 9 nights and everyone's gonna, and then I say to people at times, like, it's the quiet part afterwards that's the hardest. You see what I'm saying? Because after everyone's come around, because everyone comes around, everyone converges, but then everyone has to get on with their lives and it starts to get quiet and stuff. But we can't let it be, we have to carry on. The same out, that's why when I heard from you, it's instant, no hesitation. Yeah, of course, let's get this done and let's make sure it's done the right way. We have to keep carrying on and keep the push going, and that's why you should be proud of yourself, Jefferson, for the mantle that you're taking up. It's not easy, to carry a family. It's not easy, bro. I know firsthand it's not easy, and you're dealing with media. You had to stop your job. You're dealing with all sorts of things. How's it affected you in general? How's it affected you each individually? All of you first. That's all right. You got your drink there? Can you reach it? Maybe Jefferson can get. I know you can't. Maybe Jefferson can help you out. Everybody gets
Oh, it was there.
help out. I saw you just stuck up on there like you can't. I know. I see it. I didn't mean to expose you to the English, but I clocked the play. I clocked. Bad. Jefferson, talk to me, bro. How you get it, bro? Talk to me. How you coping?
Oh no, man, it's hard, isn't it? Like it's hard. I think I wish I could just sit here and just be like, no, like I'm getting on with it, but it's hard. Like it's really, really hard. There's so much other things going on in my life as well. Like that's obviously like not really. Don't want to say not helping because it's a blessing, but there's other stuff that I need to deal with as well. So it is really, it is really hard, yeah. But obviously we've got support, got a family, got a campaign team, so got so many people supporting, which is always like helpful. But yeah, it's just I thought, you know what, my heart goes out to families that's just gone through this, man. You know what I mean? I can't lie. Like I used to like watch them videos, and obviously I feel a bit upset, but you just never really understand how it feels until it's you, right? Like it just hurts so much, like, and I think, yeah, man, it's just hopefully like no other families have to go through this, but obviously we know how it.
Some will get help, but it's Sheeda. What about yourself? How's it affected you as a mum as well? How's it affected you? How's it?
As a mum, as a sister, as a cousin to a lot of male relatives as well, because we've got a lot of I got a lot of male cousins, young male cousins. I got a lot of younger brothers. It just brought up. I didn't know that it was a form of PTSD that was coming up. Whew.
Take your time.
Sorry. It's hard. not just for my family and the boys in my family, but there's so much black boys, so much black men that's come to near-death experiences, just like Chris's. Some have made it and some haven't. You know, after the protests and everything, I had a lot of them messaging me because of what I said. So you got tissues, right? Because of what I said and the stories that were coming in. You know, they were just messaging. They found my Instagram and then they were just messaging. And not that was oblivious to what was happening. That, you know, we come from ends, we know these things, you know. But it's the near-death experiences. Yeah. It's the normalization of it that, you know, a little year 7 boy could be stops and search, and then it starts from year 6, year 5, year 7, you know, that's their first introduction to police most of the time. And they have this view of police from there, in their little innocent minds. They're traumatized from there. And then, thank you. Very good, good. You know, they're traumatized from there. And then the process starts. There's no help. There's no help. And then they go and tell their mom or their dad. Mom and dad don't exactly know how to go about it.
It's a generation thing.
Exactly that. It's a generation thing. It's like a cycle that continues and continues and continues, and we just got traumatized black men.
Yeah, 100%.
That are operating out of trauma.
Yeah, 100%.
More time, and this is what I saw. Not that I didn't know that this was going on, but when they were sending me these messages, you know, like it hit home, and it's like, shit, this is bigger than what we're thinking it is. Yes, this is Chris, but there is like millions of Chris, not just here in the UK, across overseas.
Yeah. Listen,
everywhere.
I'm telling you,
it's like all of these are Chris's. There's just so much of them, and you know, it being so close to home, that being my cousin, and then you're looking at the rest of the male relatives, and you're thinking, and my little brothers, and you're thinking, could it be them next?
That's literally how you think.
Could it be them next?
That's literally how you think, and it's not a lie. What you're saying is not wrong, and it's the generational thing as well. One of the reasons why I've carried myself and why Doug carries himself a certain way on this platform, and why I've gone about things a certain way on this platform, is because I realised early that I'm in a position where people listen to me to a certain degree. So there's a level of responsibility to that. So you've got to carry yourself official in a certain kind of way. And I came to realise through doing this, like my guys would ring me and say to me like P, you're like you don't understand. There's a bare fatherless generation, you know. Enough of these youths are looking to you a certain kind of way and listening. And I was out on Sunday. I went out late to get something from the shop, and a guy came in there, a guy. I'll say his name in it. His name, and it's funny you say across the world as well. His name, a guy called Angelo, a black guy, but he's Italian. He said he's from Venice originally. Been living in the country 3 years. He says he watches the podcast, and you know what he said to me? It's funny as you say this as well. He said, I love the podcast, you know. He goes, you don't know what it does. And he goes, it's hard for the young G's, you know. He goes, it's so hard for the young guys out here, you know, bro. And it's not like he was coming across like he's some kind of bad boy or this, that, the other. Normal black you just telling me straight. That's the first thing he told me. Because it's hard for us, you know, bro. Yeah. It's hard. And I know how hard it is. It's scary, bro. I've got 2 sons, 18 and 11, yeah? Ooh. And 17, he wishes he was 18. I'm not giving him the extra one yet. No, so I still got to bad him up. So I'm not giving him that yet. Yeah. 17, 11, yeah. 70, but I'm concerned for them. I'm already telling them. I'm telling my bigger one from early, like, police stop you, don't even get him that. Just humble yourself straight away. Don't get in no form of argument with them. Don't even entertain it. Yeah. And if they arrest you for anything, don't say a word. You understand? Don't say a word. Yeah. Don't say a word. You understand? Only until you get to call me or get to call home or something. And he's not even in or nothing. But I know it can happen at any moment. You don't have to be in or nothing.
No.
You're half guilty just by being a black youth walking down the road.
It's like what you're saying.
In some cases, not half guilty, full guilty. That's enough.
That's it. And when you're saying like there's bare Chris's like all over the place,
Literally.
yeah, the sad thing about it as well is that they've all made us like it's like acclimatized to that treatment. It's like we've even said
we accept
like we've given examples of where we've been hard stopped.
Yeah.
Like you get what I mean? And but to us, we're telling the story like it's normal.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
And
And we
and
accepted
that's,
it.
you know that's sad,
That's
right?
the sad thing
Almost
about it.
immune to this.
We're immune to it. And
Yeah,
it's like,
immune
it's
to it.
happened. I bet every man in there has probably had
Yeah,
a situation where
Brother.
they've been dragged about, searched, hard stopped.
All of the above.
And it is
but,
sad.
But the fear's so mad of the police, yeah, that when I did the video talking about Chris, yeah, and then I saw the views on it, and I see it reached like, I don't know, 200,000. I think by the time it reached 10, I thought, fucking hell, I hope these fuckers ain't gonna want to try to take set on me, because you know you don't even want them in your life.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's just how we feel, unfortunately. I remember thinking like,
Yeah.
I don't want these, you see what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say?
yeah.
Because I'd rather just be under the radar. If I'm helping people here, I'm helping people here. If I'm talking with my friends here, getting things off my own chest to make me feel better, I'm doing that. I'm minding my business. You understand?
We live in that time.
But we live in that time where, you know, that's how the fear is. The fear is.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. But universally,
Yeah.
that's what you're going to keep hearing. Tell me, what's with what you do, you must hear stories constantly, all the time, and see instances or hear of instances. Do you feel like things are getting any better?
The short answer. Well, for the last 10 years, I've been building a youth organisation called Forefront, and we support young people who've experienced violence, trauma and racial injustice. We fight for their rights, we support them to heal, and we empower them to build community. And so in doing that, I run a centre called Jaheim's Justice Centre on Graham Park Estate in Northwest London. We work with hundreds of young people, and we have over the years. And so we see every single day the police violence. We see every single day the police treatment, and not just the police treatment, the whole criminal legal system, which is everything from the police, the courts. It doesn't stop there, how they get treated in prison, if they are incarcerated, probation, and how these systems is connected not just to the criminal legal system, education, it affects their healthcare, it affects their housing. And I think you've made such a powerful point, is the trauma. There's trauma already in the community from the things that we go through in the ends and the things that happen, but then there's no support systems to help. Instead of getting healing and support, we're getting criminalization and punishment and just more trauma. So instead of helping with the harm and violence, the state through police and other institutions is just inflicting more harm and trauma and violence. And I think with that in mind, when we look at, well, what is justice? And this is something we were going to speak about. We're talking about this wider issue now. This is bigger than Chris. It's been bigger than Chris. Before this happened to Chris, it was there and it's still there now. And justice then, when we think about it, what does justice look like for all that trauma and all that harm that we go through as a community? And I just want to put it out there and encourage people to think bigger, because if, and I say if, this one officer, NX121, they decide to bring a criminal charge, and this one officer, NX121, is tried and found guilty by a jury and convicted of murdering Chris Kaba and then is sentenced. Like, is that justice? Is that enough on its own? And is that what justice looks like? To me, that's not enough, because it doesn't cover all the harm. It doesn't deal with the institution that allowed things like that to happen, not just to Chris, but to others. It doesn't support his daughter that's born a couple of days before her dad's funeral, and we'll never get to meet him. What about his brothers? What about the wider family, all his friends? The layers and layers and layers of trauma is too deep. One officer going to prison could never cover that. And I think when we start questioning that, we're relying on that system that's harming us to be the deliverers of justice. So I don't think the solution lies there. I think it's bigger than that. And I'm not saying that any family shouldn't use every legal route that they have available. That's the structure we have at the moment. But how we can push as a community and mobilize as a community to vision bigger than that for how we actually meet our needs. Because we have a lot of needs that should be addressed, need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's mad though, because it's like, even what you're saying, the way that society is now, and that it's like, I remember even growing up, you'd have like maybe youth clubs or like organizations that had the funding to kind of cater to the children, like to kids, young kids, and be there. But I think now, because all of that funding's gone and everything's so stripped back, it's like you either criminalized or you're just a normal person, innit? Like that's it. There's no like rehabilitation in between. Even prison is just a place you just hold a man and then put him back out on the road again. Do you get what I mean? It's like we are living in a time where it's just that is just one side, like two sides of the fence, innit? You either on that side or that side, but there's nothing that kind of meets in the middle to kind of help bring everyone back up or help like change like the direction of some of the youth that are actually involved in badness. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just that.
I think that's why, like, I don't know. I feel like it's up to us to support us. You know, like organisations like Temi's organisation, they are doing it, but it's not coming from the government. It's not coming from mainstream. But realistically, if they're already oppressing us, then we can't really expect them to build us up and you know build and help the youth. So realistically, it is happening. Like, but it's happening amongst ourselves. Like we're helping us because we're not going to expect it from them. Realistically,
that's what it is. We can't expect it from them. What they need to be doing is getting their shit in order. Getting their house.
We have the right to. We don't, because we've learned how we get treated in this country. We can't expect anything from them because they've shown us our expectations will not be met. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't demand the rights that we have here. And I think it's simple also when we bring it just down to something that they understand, which is the monetary. If you look at just what they're willing to spend money on, it shows that they're way more invested in our destruction than in our thriving. They don't want our communities to thrive.
Yes.
I was sitting with a group of young people and we were talking about how much it costs to incarcerate one young person in Feltham for 1 year, like 100 bags, 100,000 pounds. Yeah. Then we started calculating, okay, how many people in the room have been to Feltham or another prison, youth prison? We started counting, okay, cool. How many of our friends? We're adding it up. It got into the millions and millions of pounds just spent on 1 year of incarcerating just a small group of young people.
Yeah.
How much better could we spend that money if it was actually invested in their health, in their education, in their dreams, what they want to achieve? And that is what is wrong.
So
with
the money
society.
is there.
The money is there, but look where it's being invested.
But it's what they choose to spend it on.
They'd rather lock us up than educate us.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Understand or put us in certain positions. It just is what it is. What's communication been like with the police through the process? Like, how often? What have they done? Did they give you like a family liaison officer and all of that kind of stuff?
So I think you're talking about the IOPC. So not the police. We're not dealing with the police.
So you're no longer now. You're purely dealing with the IOPC.
With the IOPC, yeah. So they're the intermediary, or not really intermediary, but we're working with them. Or so we don't really speak to police. We met the commissioner once. Obviously sent his condolences and whatnot, but we haven't spoken to them. But the IOPC have been fairly. The IOPC have been fairly. They've been fairly decent when it comes to communicating. But I would give them that. I think they can do better in certain areas. For example, like taking 11 hours to inform the family, that weren't good enough. Also, his watch went missing, and that's obviously something that we haven't touched on the podcast yet. So
let's touch on that now.
Exactly, yeah. So his watch went missing. We saw it when we saw what we saw. We saw it on his.
You saw his watch on.
You know what's crazy? Like we're watching it and like Auntie says, "Yeah, can you go back a little bit?" Like literally 2 seconds, and they go back and they stop it, and she says, "Look, you can see his watch, you can see his bracelet.
I feel to
remember
kick over the table.
Remember?
No, I'm just saying honestly.
Exactly.
I feel to kick over the table.
I was vexed when I see.
And she literally said word for word, "Remember what he's wearing because they're expensive. We're gonna need to get them." And me and who I was with, we said, "Yeah, like of course." So when they've given us a list of what they found in the car and the watch is not there, we're like, "Wait, where's the watch?" You know, and they said there was no watch. Like, how is there no watch though? Because even his mum said before he left, so she cooked him a meal, he ate, and he had his watch on the table, and she saw it. He had his watch on the table. He put his watch on, and then he left the house. So, like in that period, where did the watch go?
But it says a lot about what they think of us. Like that whole thing, like the fact that they could shoot a man dead, and then have the audacity to then a dead body, go and remove the watch.
As an institution,
That
they're all
pulled the
pagan.
trigger. You got the one, but then is it the same guy that pulled the trigger that
don't-
stole the watch? That, you know what I mean?
But
If
my-
it isn't,
I think
you
my-
get what I mean?
They're
They're
all
all
back
back
each other.
They're all
Yeah.
backing each other. They're all together. They're a clique. They're all lying for each other and covering for each other, even when they know that person's fucked up. But they won't throw each other under
No.
the bus. Do you get what I'm saying? They need to, but they will never do
They
it.
won't do
They're
it.
an institution that we watch. Is it Line of Duty? We know what they're like. Do you get what I'm saying? We know what they're on.
But you know what? When it comes to the watch, I can't lie. When the watch went missing, I haven't really like. Obviously, nothing like this has happened in the family before, so I haven't really like had any contact with the police in this way anyway. But I didn't know how corrupt the police were. I can't lie. Like I didn't know. Like even when they took his watch, I was thinking, okay, that's a bit crazy. But when I saw like I got sent a document, and I don't know if you guys have gone on my Instagram. Everyone just go on my Instagram, and you'll see like these 4 memes. Just click on it, and you'll see literally a list of what police officers get up to in this, and it is bad. Like I'm talking about £50 million property fraud, and you're thinking,
Let's
what?
not forget, didn't one just get convicted for rape?
Exactly.
For
And
rape?
he was an
The
arms
murderer
officer.
one that killed the
We get a
woman.
file, like, we get a file sent out to WhatsApp. Like normally, it's every couple of years you get this one file. It's a document.
All of
And
their convictions.
Yeah.
all their
That's
convictions.
just the convictions.
That's
And that's just the
one.
convictions. That's just
Some of them ain't getting caught.
Oh,
Some of them have got relationships with certain people so high up that they'll help you cover your tracks. Remember, it's an old boys network, you know. It's an institutional thing. So
army man and all them things.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
But do you see the difference? What do you see? Do you see a difference between a gang-related shooting and police-related shooting? Can you see it?
Yeah, 100%, because I think I haven't pledged anything to anyone, right? As obviously as a citizen, there's certain laws you're supposed to follow, etc., etc. But it's not my job. I haven't like sworn oath. I haven't put my hand on the Bible or swore allegiance to whoever. Like, so I don't really owe anyone anything. Obviously, like courtesy and manners, and for society to function well, we have to be cordial. We have to be respectful, right? Like we know that, but we don't owe each other that, right? But police owe us protection because that's their job, right? So like that's their job. So it's like, I think the second police shootings and gang shootings, like the second we can't separate them, then you're pretty much giving them a green light to act like gangsters. Pretty much, you're saying like you can be like gangsters, and I feel like if a police officer any police officer, firearms officer in this country can walk up to a black man and say, "I can shoot you in the head, and I'm gonna get away with it." Most of them will say that because they genuinely believe they will get away with it, and this is why, as much as I agree with Timmy that we have to think about bigger picture stuff, and like him going in prison is not enough, but it's a start. And I think that's going to send shockwaves throughout, because it's like one of us has actually gone down for murder, and there's no police officer who knows how it.
Yeah, you see when they started slapping the man then with, I think it was minimum 6 for a gun and this that, they were doing that to obviously they wanted to put fear in people. So if they if one was to be convicted for murder, you want to hope or think that it might put fear in another one to not go that route or not to.
Because you see Anthony Long, though, I have to say, because this guy, unlawful killing, verdict, he's gone to trial, he's been acquitted, so everyone knows what he did, and the system said, we actually think what you did was unlawful, we think you're a criminal, we think you murdered this guy. He stood trial like everyone else. He's now written books, he's got book deals, he's out there talking.
Do you know what's crazy? Can I just tell you a story?
And yes,
Let's tell you a story. So,
exactly.
so this is the day afterwards, or was it the Wednesday? I think it's the Wednesday. So it happened on Monday, Tuesday we found out Wednesday. I went to auntie and uncle's house, and we met with the IOPC. So they came. It's the first meeting, like proper meeting we had, and they came. And one of them was a former police officer, and he made it a point to let us know that he was a former police officer, which was quite annoying because obviously like we don't want to deal with you, like you know. But anyways, so he's talking, and my lawyer mentioned Anthony Long, who's the one that killed Azelle Rodney, and he said, funny enough, I'm reading that book right now. Like, and he's told us this literally as we're having this meeting about a police shooting, and he's like, after that he said, I'm on the part where Tony Long shoots Azelle Rodney. He said, like, he didn't say it verbatim, but he said, I'm on the Azelle Rodney part or something like that.
Yeah.
Who did he say this to?
To the family. We're literally grieving a police shooting, and he's saying, I'm reading
they don't.
Exactly. It's such a violation.
And that's the
racism.
IOPC. So he said something. He said, I wouldn't want to do that job. But he said it almost like, I can't explain it, like it's justifying it, like, oh, that was such a hard decision. I feel sorry for Tony Long. Like, it was.
He's killed this guy killed 3
yeah,
people.
it's a
Anthony Long.
Long.
Rodney wasn't the first person he had killed, and this is the thing. So he's writing his story in a book, and my point with that is, I think this system will sacrifice 100%. You said talk about throwing them
I
under
hear
the bus.
you.
It will sacrifice
I hear
one.
you.
And will that change the fact that we're being
The
killed?
sacrificial lamb.
That
They haven't had to
pacifier,
sacrifice
And
one
this one,
yet.
I hear you.
Not
I
yet.
hear you
This
on
one's
that.
looking. It has to be
Yeah,
this.
like we're gonna have to give. We're gonna have
Yeah,
to give them
because
one.
they've
We're gonna have
got
to
the
give them
backing. It's got the streets backing. Plus, you've seen everyone that's involved would have seen
I
the
hear
body
you.
cam and known how it's gone down. It's like,
hear
you
you.
get what I mean? There's a
one.
lot.
You.
working.
As they are a gang. Gangster know certain times the man might say, boy, listen, you're gonna have to go and sit down for the tea. You're gonna get looked after. You're gonna get looked after. You don't know. You tell me he's not lying. She's not. Listen, I can see logic in what you're saying at the same time, but I can see logic in what you're saying, Jefferson. And one would be good. It would be good to see it happen, but I do understand.
It's not enough. It's not enough.
But
yeah.
it's definitely not enough. It's definitely
It has
not
to be
enough.
like a murder charge and not
Oh,
that
no,
downgraded like they
It can't be.
tend to do,
Like,
yeah.
the thing is with manslaughter, like it's like you didn't mean to kill the person. When a police shoots someone in the head, you're killing that person. So the possibility of manslaughter is thrown out the window. How's that possible? You shot him in the head.
Let's be clear.
Like, so this is murder. You murdered him.
Yeah.
Pretty
And
much, like.
These gun police are marksmen, you know.
Yeah.
They're marksmen, you know. They're trained.
trained.
They're trained. They know where they hit him.
Like we go to work, they go to work.
Yeah,
Part
yeah.
of their work is
So
kind of
the
training.
shot accuracy is up there.
Do you know?
So
what's-
I'm thinking if it's a headshot, it's meant to be that's what they were targeting.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Like I watched a documentary on Tony Long actually because I wanted to know more about armed police officers and get into their head because before this I weren't really like I didn't really obviously I watched Line of Duty but I didn't really like know their psychology. So when I was watching it, he said something. They asked him when you kill someone, how does it feel? And he said something that shocked me. But then straight afterwards, I thought about it. He said it feels like training. Now he said that straight away. My initial reaction was like, like I'm just getting pissed off. I'm getting angry. I'm getting worked up. But then I thought about it from a non-emotional perspective. Lionel Messi, when he's training to score goals, what does he do? Like he shoots at the goal. These people, when they're shooting them targets, in a real life situation, who is that target? It's a human being. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like I even feel like with being an armed officers, like I can't explain it, man. You have to almost dehumanize that person. Yeah. Because if you see that person as someone with a mom, with a family, with a daughter, you're not gonna pull the trigger. You have to literally see him as a non-human. And I feel like that's how a target, literally a target. Literally you have to see him as a board. And I think that's how they see like a lot of the people that they end up shooting, literally just like a target, not a human being, not someone who's scared, not someone who might have, panicked or literally you are a target and I need to kill you. It's scary.
How do you feel about the police now, Jefferson? What's your feeling? How do you feel about them now, yourself personally?
You know what? Shall I tell you the truth? Like, I think my whole life I've been working to like remove hate from my heart. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be a hateful person. Like I always try like forgive and but I think this is like proper tested my resolve when it comes to like forgiving and being pure and like not holding grudges. And it's like it's almost like an identity crisis, isn't it? Like I feel like what I would usually do is like try to let things go, but if this one is just hard, it's so hard. It's like how do you? Yeah, it's just hard, man.
So looking forward, this 6 to 9 months thing, where would that end? If that's where we're really gonna get, where you're really gonna get some kind of
June or July. One of them, June.
Is that a set in stone thing they have to, or is it something where in 6 to 9 months they can come back and be like, we're deep in investigations, but we need another 6 to 9 months?
I think what's good is that we had a meeting with them recently, not too long ago, for like 3 weeks ago. And the meeting was positive. Like they did reiterate that they're still going to take 6 to 9 months. And I felt that if that weren't the case by now, because it's getting closer to the time, they'll kind of know if that's not the case. So they could be saying that to pacify us, but they could also be saying, no, we're actually going to take 6 to 9 months. Personally, I do think it will take 6 to 9 months. I do think that, based on our last meeting. So hopefully, they investigate and we see what they come up with.
Where's the officer now? Just suspended at home?
Yeah, he's chilling. He's on full pay. He's on full pay. So even Christmas, he was with his family. The night he shot Chris, he went home to, like, if he's got kids or I don't know if it's a guy, but like, if it's a guy, went home to his family. Like New Year's, celebrated New Year's. But Chris is dead. Chris is gone. And I think that system is what's. If I'm gonna change, if I'm gonna change anything, talking about larger pictures, how they deal with police after they've killed someone, because I feel like they get some almost like some royal treatment The fact that you've killed someone and you give like the bare minimum in a statement and then you just go, and some officers wouldn't be questioned under caution for months. Months, which is like crazy when you think about that. That's like, it shouldn't be like that. It's one law for them and one law for us, and it's not fair.
Bear in mind, we might never know his name or
Yeah, it's possible.
and then, well, officer that killed Mark Duggan, we still only know V53. So that anonymity is also part of it, because when you look at, and this is back to also what's happening to the black community and happening to our youth, why is it one rule for us and another for them? With our young people, they can be held collectively responsible under joint enterprise. They're sitting and rotting in prison for 26 years for things they haven't even done, murders they weren't even there, for text message that they've sent, for so-called association with people, all of it, racist narrative, gang narrative, any black person, more than 2 people, it must be a gang, and now you can go to prison for life for things that you haven't done. Collective responsibility for us. But when it comes to police, they can kill someone, they can talk about it, they can confirm what they want to say that actually happened, and no one will ever know their name. Our young people's names are being put in the paper when they're not even found guilty.
Facts.
Yeah.
Even like their phones not being taken. Like their phones not being taken, so they could be WhatsApping each other saying, "Oh yeah, say this happened, say that happened." But how do we know that?
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, that's the.
There's a demonstration held like yearly, like for the families of
UFFC.
people that have lost family members and delivered to Parliament. Is there a name for it? Or,
UFFC, so the United
UFFC.
Family and Friends Campaign.
right, that got you guys were part of this year's one and it being delivered. Is there anything happen from? Is there any feedback? What happens after the petitions drop? What is that? What, they just collect the petition and take it inside? What happens?
That's the issue. They've been delivering the petition for how many years now, and I don't think they've ever received an answer. So I don't think it was going to start this year. But I think
not
it's
even nothing.
not that I've heard
As
of.
far as you know, nothing.
that I've
They
heard
just
of,
take the
nothing,
petition and
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, the system is fucked, isn't it?
But then I just think they don't. I think they don't care. Like, I know that sounds obvious, but like genuinely just do not care.
And it hurts. It hits harder when you realise that they don't. You get me? You can say it and know it, but then it's when you're trying to and you're saying, right, nah, these people actually don't give a fuck. That's when it really hits home, innit? You get what I'm saying?
I just feel like we need more like solidarity. Like I feel like when a black person is treated like this is like a spit in the face for all black people. Like that's honestly how I see it. Because like, I just think we need solidarity, man. Where when something happens to one of our own, because there's other like other racists that are like that. Where if something happens, for example, the Iran protest, that was. I haven't seen anything like that. There were so many of them, and that's solidarity. I think we need more people just coming together, because at the end of the day, once again, what's happened to Chris could have happened to anyone.
oh yeah,
Right.
most definitely.
And it's not even like I'm not expecting everyone to like campaign full time, but I think there's so many ways in which we can support. Even like and like even the littlest like thing can go a long way.
List some of the ways between 10 years war, because here's the thing, like you just said, it's disheartening. People will say, well, we're marching. I've had people sit here and say, the mums can march, man them can go and do what they're doing, it's not changing nothing. You've said yourself, petitions have been delivered to down the street. They take it inside, come out, nothing changes. What are some steps that you would encourage or that you think might be beneficial or that you think might help that people can take?
Well, one is being aware, because I don't think you can do anything about anything if you don't know about it, right? And I feel like so many people, they got their hands over their ears and their hands over their eyes, thinking that it doesn't really like affect them and it doesn't relate to them and it doesn't impact them. Like you
until
have to
it's
be aware.
happened to you, until it's at your doorstep, that's when you be like, what do we do?
Listen, people better recognise and understand that it's a lot closer to you than you think it could be. I think everyone needs to really understand it's very commonplace. It can easily happen. If you're raising children, they're potentially in danger. Like things can happen. Don't think that it's just that couldn't be us.
Yeah.
See, that's the wrong way to be thinking for certain.
And then after that, obviously we've got like family initiatives. We've got things like campaign initiatives as well that we're gonna do soon. Obviously, I'm not gonna sit here, but soon we're gonna have events and would like love as much support as possible. And even like sharing the posts. Like it doesn't. It's a small thing, but you don't know who is gonna share that. So you shared something, someone shares it, and it's reached someone that it was meant to reach. So it's like just engaging as well. Because I think this is just extremely important.
But I think it's also find that political home, and this is why I say I've been to thousands of protests in my lifetime, and I know they serve their own purpose. There's a purpose for us going there, but that in and of itself isn't it. And those of us that are leading protests, we know it's not that. The work is happening every single day. Aside from them protests, the way we can mobilize people to come out on a day like that is because the work happens every day. So we're ready. When it happens, we know, okay, we have to go quickly, we have to mobilize, but they're organizing. We need more people to be involved in the organizing. So find a political home. And what I mean by that, there are a lot of organizations that are working on these issues. They are strategizing. They're working to figure out what could the solutions look like. What are the bigger picture things we need to work towards? How do we mobilize other people? It's building a movement. A movement isn't one person. It's not one organization. It's not one community. It's a collective. It's a mass mobilization of people. And that's what we need. So even with this campaign, we're building solidarity with other movements. It might not be about police violence or police killing people. It doesn't have to be about that. But it's commonalities between. We were linking up with the climate movement. They hold space for us as Chris Kaba campaign, but we can also build those connections. And as you said, it's about that solidarity. So we will show up for other issues because we know their plight is also important, but we need that support as well. But as Black people, we know there's trauma, we've spoken about it, there's a lot happening in our community, but you have time, you have something that you can spare. Your time, your energy, it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be money. So dedicate that time, your experience. We've all got experience with these systems. Let's share more about that. That can contribute to building that mass movement. That's what's needed.
100%. All right, I'm going to ask something, right? I'm going to say this, and this should be straightforward for you to answer, but I'm going to say it because there's always going to be them that say this. So I'll say it for them, and you lot just give the straight answer. There's people that are going to say, of whatever race, and they're going to be like, yeah, but you, and I'm not saying Chris, I'll say Black boys. You boys are in a this. You lot are doing this, that, and the other. You lot are shooting each other in the streets. You lot are doing all of the above. What do you expect the police to do? What's your answer to those people? Because I'm sure you're aware that these things get said. What's your answer to them? I'll give you a platform.
Well, I'll answer like twofold. Like one pertaining to this case and one genuine. Pertaining to this case, this has nothing to do with like shooting on the streets, or this is like we're focusing on that night, right? Because even if his car was linked to firearms, we're focusing on that night because we don't believe it should have transpired the way it should have. So it's completely unrelated. But if we're talking generally, when it comes to, like, what do you expect? I think that's just not compassionate, right? Like, because everyone makes mistakes, like, and like there's people who are like 10 years older than me that are still messing up and making mistakes and learning. And I feel like you have to give like people that opportunity to grow. Yeah, it might take 5 years, 6 years. For some people, it doesn't happen, right? But the idea that because you're all killing each other, or like now you deserve to be shot, or you deserve to be killed, or you deserve to be treated as less than human, that's not fair. That's not right. That's right. Like, because I feel like even as a teacher, like you shouldn't. When I was teaching in school, you shouldn't treat a student based on their own self-perception. Right, so even if they hate themselves, and you have to try rise above that and show that you're better than that. And I feel like obviously with police it's different because they're not really teaching, they're more enforcing the law. But I still feel like you can do that with compassion, like whilst allowing people to make mistakes and not judging. Because I feel like even the police themselves, like they're not perfect, right? Like that is absolutely corrupt to the core. Right, so I feel like if anyone should be like quite understanding about criminals, it should be them, because they're like the worst criminals. So yeah, that's just my view.
Tony, go on. What would you say to that?
Look, I think we've spoken about some of the harms that happen in the community, and what's been made very clear is where's the support? You get it. Violence comes from violence that's unaddressed, trauma that's unaddressed. People, you mentioned PTSD, it's more than PTSD. PTSD is post, I say this all the time, you can't have post-traumatic stress disorder when the trauma is there. It's still there. You're still being traumatized, it's perpetual, yeah? So with that in mind, it's like, I don't want nobody pointing no fingers, and it's what I said before about where's the investment going? The investment's always in the criminalization and the punishment. The investment isn't in the healing. So we have young people that have seen their friends being killed, that have friends always going to prison, that have been attacked themselves, and know, how can we have children, teenagers that have been stabbed several times, they've never spoken to anyone about it? That's not normal. And for this society to treat them as if they should have these experiences and just be normal is not acceptable. It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. And just to add that on, you lot are killing each other anyway. We have to remember we're coming from, if you look at our history as Black people, there's been slavery, there's been colonization, taking away our education, taking away knowledge of who we are as a people. If you take away a man's knowledge of who he is, you take away his name, you take away his whole identity, you take away his family, yeah, and then leave him out into the wild. Now go and find yourself. No help. We ain't starting from anywhere. They stripped us from everything, yeah. Some of us in the Caribbean, some of us in America, some of us here, some of us there, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we're starting from.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we want to go way back before we get here, that's where we're starting from.
Yeah.
A lot of us no knowledge. A lot of our cousins in the Caribbean, they can't trace their ancestral lineage. They have no pride in who they are and what they come from. So there's layers to this. There's layers. There's generational trauma. Through slavery, there's generational trauma. It's in our blood. Trauma is in our blood.
Big facts.
Yeah?
Very
There
true.
hasn't been healing through slavery. We're still fighting for reparations.
Let them know.
Yeah?
Them know. Read this tool.
So when we're coming from all of that, and then we're here, and all of a sudden, oh, look at these people, they're killing each other. Can we go back where it started?
Exactly. I was about to just add to that, Shido, just very quickly. I feel like if I give you I feel like every single black person who's going through trauma and going through anything is like one piece of a jigsaw puzzle. You know, if I gave you one piece of a jigsaw puzzle and I said show me what's the bigger picture, you wouldn't know because I've only given you one piece. But the more I give you and you start connecting it, you start realizing, you start seeing certain patterns, and then you realize, oh my gosh, you know. So I think a lot of the people that criticize the black community, I think they're looking at it out of context and they're looking at it in isolation as if we were just born. Like we don't have a history, we just, you know, we just
Even
sort of popped
ourselves
out,
that criticize ourselves through lack of knowledge, through lack of unity, a lot of that, all of these things that were taken away from us.
Yeah, they divided us.
Yeah, that divide and conquer.
Yeah.
But it's racism that builds those same narratives because
Of
what
course.
they're trying to do is say there's something inherently criminal about you because you're black. You're inherently violent because you're black. That is a different narrative to acknowledging what is actually happening in the community, the experience of trauma, how there's no healing, there's no support. So I'm not willing to engage with those people because from a starting point, they already don't see me as human. They don't see my people as human beings. They're really invested in dehumanization. So I'm not with that narrative. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the systems. Let's look at the institutions. And then we can talk about the community. Give us the resources in our community.
Yeah.
We'll build our own community. We can keep ourselves safe. We can build our own institutions. We can educate our people. There's a lot we can do for ourselves. But in the absence of any investment, any support, and then you're pointing fingers, no, I'm not having it.
Even just to touch on that, when we build our own community and we're thriving, there's jealousy. Look at Black Wall Street in America. The first, you know,
Yeah.
at home
They went and
domestic
burned it
bombing.
down, yeah.
It was a thriving community.
they
We
went
had
and
our
burned it
own, you know, everyone was getting rich, everything. It was our own. And then what happened? Bombed it down because we were thriving so much. So, you know, not saying that there's no hope. We always have to have hope. But even when we get, you know, our investment and building everything up, it's like people have to realize that the bigger picture is like they don't want to see us thrive.
No, they don't.
But we want to see us.
We
thrive.
want to see us thrive. That's why we're always going to have hope.
That's what we're gonna.
That's why we're
yeah,
always
that's
going
what
to
we're
have
gonna.
the hope. Exactly.
That's what we're gonna.
Yeah.
We're gonna end on that kind of positive
Yeah.
note. We want to see us thrive, and we're gonna
So
support
fun,
each other and do everything we can to keep help pushing each other forward, because we support each other so well at the worst of times.
Yeah.
Everyone comes around at the worst of times, so we've got to start supporting each other just on a day-to-day basis and building. So yeah, on that note, I want to thank you all for coming through. I appreciate you. Love, blessings, and prayer to your family. You got my number. Access me anytime. I'm going to make sure I get everyone's details and we move. It's been another one. It's been an emotional one. We're going to go. We're done.
Thank you. It's emotional.
Big, big, big.